This is the BBC World Service.
Well, finally, we're going to talk about the earbud that can detect your facial expressions. Researchers in Germany say that the likes of smiles and winks can cause the tiny muscles within our ears to flex. An earplug then can pick up the corresponding electrical activity, and that might be a way of controlling our devices, literally just by changing our facial expression. I've been hearing more from Matthies. He's a PhD student at the Fraunhofer IGD Institute for Applied Visual Computing.
The muscles on our face, they're all connected, and inside the ear canal we can kind of perceive a lot of muscle movements. So when you put your pinky in your ear and then you just do some, let's say, facial expressions like eye winking, you can perceive on your pinky that the ear canal is deforming, and that's actually what we're kind of making use of.
How do you measure these minute flexes of the muscles in our ears?
We actually measure different electrical fields inside the ear canal.
What kind of relationship is there between a specific expression, like a smile, for instance, and a signal that you would detect using the earbuds?
Every facial expression has let's say, a unique pattern. A smile or an eye wink, they have a very different pattern because the deformation in the ear canal is not that broad compared to, let's say, open your mouth and the jar is sliding forward, or maybe when you're shaking your head.
So you get these very specific signatures, if you like, these signals that relate to different facial expressions, and that's what you're measuring?
Yes, exactly.
And how accurate is it?
In our studies, we could distinguish 5 gestures with an accuracy of 90%, but which must be seen as a theoretical number, of course.
What kind of expressions are you measuring here?
Smile, eye wink, ear wiggle, head nod, head shake. We actually tested 25 different facial gestures and head gestures.
What kind of device were you using? In other words, did you have to take a conventional earbud and modify it to have this kind of sensing ability?
So we actually plugged foam ear plug inside the ear canal, and we attached this with some electrodes. And here we varied between a number of 1 electrode up to 4 different electrodes.
What kind of uses might this have?
For example, we can control an incoming phone call, such as rejecting a phone call by shaking our head or muting it by eye winking. And maybe a head nodding would able to accept the call. Similar to these actions, the user is enabled to control a music player while eye winking or ear wiggling to pause the track, and using head gestures to skip or repeat the song. We also see great potential for implicit interaction, since these facial gestures, they cannot be typically switched off by the users. Collecting facial expressions and head gestures over an entire day could infer on the user's status, such as if he's engaged or stressed or tired. And this information can be crucial for implicit interaction. Let's say a phone might be muted when you're in a stressed situation, or the system might notify you when you're too tired to drive a car.
Would it have potential applications for people with disabilities, do you think, who perhaps can't use their hands as easily?
Yeah, exactly. That's another application field. So we could complement an explicit input in situations where people cannot move their hands. For example, when you're suffering from a locked-in syndrome, you're unable to move your limbs and your hands, so then you usually only have facial expressions available and audio, so you can give voice input. But in a lot of situations, this is not really working, and here our technology can help to provide an additional input method.
Matthies, who tells me that he's been working with his professor and a fellow PhD student on that. The paper will be delivered at a forthcoming Human Interaction Conference in Denver, and I'm sure everybody is going to be keen to hear what Guylaine Boddington thinks of all that.
I love it. I love the fact that we're starting to see these minute wearables emerging, which actually will be, pretty much invisible on the body and very light and not like a big VR headset on your head. In this case, using tiny muscle movement, but many different types of biofeedback of body information now, which are going to come with very unique functions. And I think that these biometrics, like, fingerprints, iris, all this is, all coming into our lives on a regular basis. But when they have a use use like this to, either open your phone or modify you, like he said, by telling you when you're too tired to drive a car. This is very, very useful.
Yeah, and I suppose this isn't like an alternative to typing on a keyboard necessarily. It's more, switching off your music player, that kind of thing, those kinds of uses.
Yes, and stop having to use this one finger all the time, which is, mine's starting to ache. So, yes, if I can wink and do various things, fantastic, yeah.
Okay, right. Well, I'm winking back at you, not in a weird way, as you say that. But as another second ticks by, I could have learnt a bit more vocabulary than in French, I'm sure. Ghislaine Boddington, thank you very much indeed for that. I'm Gareth Mitchell. Your producer is Colin Grant, and we'll see you next week. Take care and bye-bye.